So unfortunately, that scene has not is in a state where they're really struggling to like keep their dancers dancing, but also bring in the new generation. And I know there's people out there trying, but so lately it hasn't been Edmonton. It's like if we go to Edmonton, you know, like there's a good expectation that like somebody from Calgary could potentially just win the jam, right?
Another thing I want to talk about is what's about to go down in 2022, which is the rise of the B-girl.
I like to keep it raw. Keep it raw.
Right? So this is the new endeavor that you and your team are about to take on. When I saw what it is that you guys were doing, my first initial thing was like, oh, this is dope. Like, I like that I think you guys are saying that it's more of a conference, correct? 3-day conference. But no, the part that stuck out to me was the fact that you guys are going to be doing some like workshops and things in Banff. And, you know, I've always wanted to go to Banff. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, snap, man, they're going to be in Banff doing, I think that's where the bodily wellness type things are. So that's really cool. Well, I don't want to tell everybody the event for you. You can just tell us. So Rise of the B-Girl, right?
Right.
Part 1 was, so if you're organizing an only girl event, what value did you see in taking that niche angle?
Honestly, there was an opportunity there, and like the opportunity was that was the grant, was to write a grant and write grant proposal. It was about how can we impact part of an arts community that sort of needed the support, or is like sort of like not. It's there's a bit of like barriers and struggles, like, you know, trying to like what's happening in your arts community that's sort of like facing these challenges. And the first thing that honestly came to mind was the Canadian B-girl scene, right? And like and when I started to look into it, at first was like, okay, like it first started off as just like what's happening in other cities? Is it going to be like, are there programs happening? You know, why are there not as many B-girls at events or coming up, right? We always hear about prospects and like the young generation coming up, and there's always B-boys, and you go to see that. So it's just like, you know, going across, and there are dope B-girls in Canada, but like reaching out to them and asking them like, hey, like what's happening when it comes to like B-girl development? And it was a lot of the same answers, either like, yeah, like, you know, like there's classes going on, but there's always a mixture, right? It's always going to be B-boys and B-girls, which is a fine thing. Like it's not terrible that B-girls develop with B-boys, not at all. But then it's like the numbers were always low. It's like, yeah, we have like maybe like 1, 2 out of like 20 kids, you know, in all these cities. And it was like asking them. And then it's also like the other answers that we get is like, yeah, like there's like hip hop focused, dance focused programs, but then it wasn't about breaking, right? It was about like the other styles,
choreography, and all that stuff. Yeah,
definitely. And then it's just like, and obviously looking at our own scene, it's like, hey, we had like maybe a handful of B-girls, and they all like just disappeared. And the question came up like what are we not doing to support our scene, our B-girls? Right?
Now,
There's something
just to cut in, but not cut you off. I do apologize for that. So earlier we were talking about the kind of like that deficit where a lot of the younger breakers were intimidated by having to compete with the older breakers, more experienced ones. Do you think that there's some kind of parallel in that maybe the Bgirls were a little bit intimidated by having to break with the like right alongside the Bboys?
I think so. Yeah. I think for like when you're starting off, 100%, it's intimidating, right? I know experienced B girls will say like, no, like it's been great developing beside a B-boy, but I think the reality is that that's what scares some of these new B girls coming into it, because they're just like it's a little bit masculine, it's a little bit more male centered, or the representation is like it is B boys. So I think it does bring a lot of that factor of intimidation and then pushing people away, and the opposite too. It's like because there's not a lot of B girls in the scene, the B boys don't know how to act, sometimes like around B girls, right? And like they treat them differently when they should be just treating them the same as developing dancers, right? So I think those things definitely
dig into that. How do you think they treat them differently?
Sometimes it's like I don't know, like it's like overly holding their hands, because sometimes they need to like learn how to, in breaking you got to learn how to fall, right? You learn how to fall, so you learn how to then understand like your body when it comes to hitting the floor, touching the floor, what that's going to be like. But it's also the other things, right? Like again, like there's like boys just like sometimes they just get like a little too excited, right? But then again, they don't know that they're treating these girls differently, but sometimes they're overly aggressive in their approach, or just the idea of like like it can make them feel uncomfortable, right? And part of that is just like because maybe like guys like us, the older generation, aren't like around enough to like teach them the right way to like act around like just girls in general, or 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 it's just like again like it's like they don't have enough practice because again there's just not enough girls in the scene, right? It's like that whole thing, like you learn how to break, you learn how to do top rock and six step because you're around it, right? But if you're not around like how to interact with a girl, and this is like the first time you see a girl and like you don't know how to behave, it's like those questions come up.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. You're right, because as much as on the, I guess let's look at it from a sport angle.
Mm-hmm.
You only compete like intramurally with girls or co-ed with girls to what, like 8, maybe 8, 9, and then they definitely separate everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's only in some sports. Some sports even before that, it's all girls or all boys. So then you come back at like let's say 13, and now all of a sudden you guys are all together again. The maturity level isn't really there to handle that if you haven't been kind of groomed to handle that. So I feel you on that. Yeah. So one thing that I was thinking about as you were talking, because I've had conversations with females and they've talked about, issues about the equality and the opportunity and so on and so forth. And I'll ask you, what I asked them, just to hear your opinion as a person who's doing, something that is centered on the B girl. Do you think that there should be? Well, I kind of know your answer because you're doing a B girl event. But when they talk about equality and things like that, does having a B girl event take away from that to where they're like, okay, just compete with yourselves? Or do you think that having everybody together and you just have to fend for yourself is the better? It's like a sink or swim approach. Because, I guess it can go either way, and you'll explain, because, out of those same mixtures, you get some of the best B girls in the world, you know what I'm saying? And then like they can beat guys,
For sure.
But then of course on the other end, you get a lot of B girls that probably walk away from it. But anyway, what is your take on that?
My take is like I think there needs to be both. Like regardless of, I think you can have like a lot of dope B girls do come out of like scenes that are heavily just that focus on the equity and like rather than the equality piece of just like being able to just be a part of the scene, be a part of the group, regardless of being male or female, for sure. But some of those scenes do have, for whatever reason, they just have a lot more female presence, right? Like, and I'm talking like in Europe, in Asia, in like Russia, like their population is huge when it comes to their B-girl scene compared to the Canadian scenes, especially. And I know the American scene, it looks big, but also I know that it's not as big as some of these other countries, right? I think ultimately, like for this specific thing, is that there was an opportunity, and the opportunity was to showcase these B-girls, but also give these B-girls an opportunity to learn something, but also and connect with each other, but learn something and be able to bring it back to their cities. And the message isn't like do it by yourself. It's like the message is going to be like go back to your city, connect with your scene, right? B-boys, B-girls, whoever you feel most comfortable with. And try to think about how to put back into the community so that, like, you know, these things, these conferences don't have to always be focused on just the B-girls, right? We're also like including things like an open battle and ideas, like so that we can bring the B-boys to come, right, and be there and not just show support, but also to be beside these B-girls as these B-girls like come to our city, try out this journey. But they're not going to be left alone just to do it by themselves. They have the opportunity, if they're hungry enough and they want to collaborate or battle against or team up with these B-boys, there's an open 2-on-2, and it's just a way to, we're just trying to set that stage, right? And I think the initiative like this is important just right now, because there's not a lot of these initiatives happening. There's a few things happening here in Canada, you know, there's symposiums, conversations happening. Out east, I feel that there are a little bit more focused like programs, but in the West, there wasn't as much. So it was just like, this was the opportunity. And this opportunity is like, we get to bring down like international B-girls that we would normally never get a chance to see, to inspire this generation of B-girls in Canada. Be like, this is an opportunity. You get to take a workshop with them, specifically just as a B-girl, so that you get that perspective, right? But we're not closing it off to the B-boys. The B-boys will also get the opportunity to take a workshop if they wanted to, right? Building the capacity for these B-girls to, like, if they wanted to go back to the city to do something different, right? Like, they can train as B-girls, and that those resources are there, right? They can connect with the B-boys and their scene, the better ones, and like and develop that way. So those things are there, but it's mostly about like what other things could they do if.
For more quality content from Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. Also, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond the Cypher. Let us know how we're doing down in the comment section. And to make sure you don't miss anything from the channel, smash that notification bell. We appreciate the love and support. Peace. Until the next episode.